humanity. That's one thing we all have in common. We're all human beings. And apparently, we're all Planeteers. It is by your powers combined that I am David Coburn, Captain Planet. Very nice to be here. Thank you for coming. The purpose of the next 15-20 minutes is to answer your questions about what I do, about what I've done, about maybe what I will do in the future. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Hello. Yeah, hello. Hello. How are you? Good? Okay, I'll just take that as a good. All right. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, among other things, I'm the voice of Captain Planet, and have been since 1989 when we recorded our first episode ever. Captain Planet is the world's only environmental cartoon superhero. To my knowledge, Captain Planet the Planeteers is the only cartoon superhero attached, the only cartoon series attached to an ideology. Which is a really special thing because the ideology attached to this show is about saving the planet, reducing, reusing, and recycling. Really wasn't a conversation people were having before Captain Planet. Captain Planet was a creation of Ted Turner. Yeah. Bless his soul, rest in peace. He recently left us. Ted was a visionary, in addition to a millionaire, and it was his commitment to leave an impact on the world that would make a difference on the quality of life for everybody on Earth. So one afternoon, I get a phone call from my agent. I think it was a Wednesday. I was 19 years old. It was a voiceover audition like any other. I showed up, read some copy, and got the job. It turns out that it was the role of the Earth's only environmental superhero. I had the pleasure and honor to replace Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise recorded the first 6 episodes of Captain Planet. Production decided they didn't like his work.
Oh no.
So I very well may be the only guy on Earth that could say he replaced Tom Cruise.
Wow.
Something I'm very proud of. So I went back and we recorded the first 6 episodes, and then we did 111 episodes in total over 9.5 years. Captain Planet is a cross-generational product that has literally had a measurable effect on 30 years of humanity. A lot of the kids who grew up watching Captain Planet when they were your age are now parents with kids of their own. And they passed on the legacy, the responsibility of taking care of planet Earth, leaving a measurable mark in a good way. I could keep talking, or I could answer some questions. Anybody have anything specific they'd like me to talk about? Questions about voiceover, questions about Captain Planet, questions about me as a guy. Here's one in the front. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the greatest Planeteers on Earth. His name is Ben. He's got one of the most impressive Captain Planet collections I personally have ever seen. And we've been talking together on Facebook for 3 years today. We got to meet each other face to face, so the pleasure is mine, but the power is yours. Woo! Ben, what do you want to know?
What is your favorite episode or theme that you did on the show?
It's a very good question. You know, Captain Planet was a very brave platform because it attacked issues nobody had ever discussed in public prior. Things like exploiting our planet, taking advantage of our resources, the extinction of species, the quality of our drinking water, the purity of our air. I think of all the shows that we did, the 111 episodes that we did, the one that marked me the most was the episode about HIV and AIDS.
Ooh.
Elizabeth Taylor lent her voice to one of the characters in that episode. We get to work with Elizabeth Taylor. And it was the first time ever in the history of humanity that issue was dealt with in an animated cartoon series. And I know at the time it was really important because a lot of people were getting sick. And children needed to understand what was happening. So we figured out a way, producers and writers figured out a way to deal with really hard concepts, really complicated ideas, and make them accessible to a cross-generational public. And when we first started, we just thought we were just doing a cartoon series. And as the scripts kept coming in, we realized how important what we were talking about really was on a social level. And it touched the hearts and the voices of all the people involved. We worked with celebrities like Tim Curry, Meg Ryan, Ed Asner, Dean Stockwell, James Coburn, Jeff Goldblum, Sting, and many, 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 many others. All of these celebrities worked for minimum wage. Everybody in the cast waived their right to future residuals because they understood the social and global importance of the work that we were doing.
Wow.
And it was an act of creative generosity. And still remains one of the greatest jobs I've ever had as an actor because it might be one of the only jobs I've had in Hollywood that has ever done immeasurable good for the rest of the world. I started out in TV on sitcoms like One Day at a Time, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, 21 Grove Street, 30-something, Fresh Prince, Sister, Sister, Martin, Mad About You, Jag, Law and Order, Sopranos. Well, more recently, Three Musketeers, Emily in Paris. I know nothing else except being a professional performer, but this job, Captain Planet, the Planeteers, is the only job I ever did that was attached to an ideology that really mattered to my soul. So what a privilege, what an honor to be the carrier of this message and the mouthpiece for what we all understand to be the future of our planet. I personally lost a lot of friends to AIDS in the late 90s.
Oh.
So, you know, to take an issue like that and put it into the context of a cartoon series was unheard of at the time, and still touches me today. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Cynically at the time when it first came out, a lot of people that were down, but were saying that it was kind of a cynical cash grab.
She said a lot of people at the time when Captain Planet came out was like, it seemed to Captain Planet to be a cynical cash grab, and...
Yeah, there was a lot, but there was a lot of talk like that at the time about environmental things.
Yeah.
I was wondering if anybody ever brought that criticism.
Anybody ever heard of a guy named Al Gore?
Yes.
Okay, Al Gore, the creator of the internet, the inventor of the environmental movement, and he was the first person to sort of knock on the door of humanity to try to give us a wake-up call. A lot of people thought he was out of his mind. I think he was a visionary. He was way ahead of his time, just like Ted, and I think he saw the implications of the science as early as 40 years ago. In 2006, I saw Al Gore's film, An Inconvenient Truth. Anybody ever see that film? Show of hands. It's a documentary about what's happening to the planet. And he made it to try to convince humanity to wake up and open their awareness to what was happening to planet Earth and to the environment, to our air and to our water. And I saw the film in 2006, I was so moved. I came home that night and I got on the internet, I found an email, and I wrote Al Gore a letter. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I said, Mr. Gore, my name is David Coburn, I'm the voice of Captain Planet, and we're working on the same thing. I'm trying to save the planet too. And I wanted to use my skill set, standing up in front of people and talking and communicating a message that matters to me, for something more important than my own resume and bank account. And I offered my services to Mr. Gore. He invited me to participate in a training program in Nashville in 2006. I was one of 1,000 people selected. out of 44,000 applicants. And he created what he called his environmental cavalry. He trained us. You're still cynical. I can see
no,
it.
that's a funny thing.
Okay. So he trained us with his information. He provided us with his slides and all the stuff that he'd used in his film. And he sent us out into the world to talk to people in our own lives about environmentalism and what we could do in our own communities. There were teachers. There were politicians. There were business people. There were actors like me. I sat next to Cameron Diaz for a week. And we basically learned how to teach environmentalism to people in our own lives. I think the skepticism now only stayed with the stupid people.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure,
Yeah.
right?
Because
And
it's kind of outrageous to think that was very white. They greeted everything, Star Trek Next Generation, and it was the precursor to what's going on now. You know?
people, it wasn't part of the common conversation until Mr. Moore made it part of the conversation, and until Ted gave the movement a voice with Captain Planet. That's why we're still here 35 years later talking about the same thing, except now the issues become a little bit more important, because as we can see, things are getting hot. Things are getting really hot. The hottest year ever recorded in history was yesterday. We've been saying that for the last 12 years. Huh? I live in Paris, France right now. Last week in Paris, it was 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't want to scare anybody, but Paris is north of Montreal on the planet. Right? Like, it's north. What is it? Why is it 40 degrees Celsius in Paris at the beginning of June? So, all of us have a collective responsibility to keep this conversation going. That's part of the reason I'm standing here today, not to talk about my voiceover career, but to talk about Captain Planet's message and to make sure that you guys go out thinking about something other than cartoons. And we have a responsibility to keep this conversation going with all the people in our lives we care about. And you'd be surprised. I used to tell these kids, I spoke to about 50,000 kids between New York and Florida in 2006 and 2007. And one 5-year-old kid came up to me after one of my speeches. And he said, Captain Planet, what can I do? What can I do? And so I pulled out this pack of 5 plastic rings, and I gave him 5 rings: earth, wind, water, fire, and heart, the 5 elemental properties of the 5 planeteers. And he looked at me like I was an extraterrestrial. And he says, Captain Planet, I know more than 5 people. I don't know where this kid is now, but that was like 20 years ago, right? And I said to Mr. Gore in my letter, children and people who identify with children, the only demographic on the planet not motivated by profit. Ideology alone is enough to get a kid to change their behavior. You show a child a drowning polar bear, or a family of penguins sitting on a melting iceberg, and they're going to change their behavior at home. I don't know if you guys remember when seatbelts were optional.
I wasn't even around during that
Seatbelts
time.
used to be optional. Motorcycle helmets were optional.
God.
But it became the law because humanity needed to protect itself. But the only way the behavior changed was because of this commercial in the 70s. Some kid in the back seat saying, Mom, forgot your seatbelt. So the parents are motivated by the kids, and the kids are motivated by the ideology alone. And it was my vision to try to educate the youth of yesterday, who are our consumers and voters and politicians of the future, to change policy by changing ideology and behavior. I'm still saying the same thing 30 years later, only now I look like this. But what an honor to be able to carry this message around the world. Any other questions, please? Anything about anything or anyone? Anything? Anybody? Curious man, yes. Clarinet guy.
I'm just curious. This is more of a fun question.
Go ahead.
If things went differently, if Tom Cruise was actually cast as Captain Planet,
Yeah.
do you think there would be a world where you'd be doing all your own stunts? Where you'd be
That's a very funny question. I can guarantee you the answer is no. No, my ego healed a long time ago. I've got nothing to prove to anybody. I'm just here doing the Lord's work and trying to make a living. I think Tom Cruise is a brilliant performer. I think he's an amazing man. He's a very powerful man. But doing your own stunts when you're the star of a film is absolutely ridiculous. Okay.
You could never be Captain Planet.
Well, he tried. I'm going to do his voice, because I had to listen to it for 6 episodes. You guys know Captain Planet sounds like, by your powers combined, I am Captain Planet! Right?
Yeah.
So Tom Cruise sounded like this. By your powers combined, I am Captain Planet.
That doesn't sound very good.
It sounds like Mission Impossible, right? It doesn't sound like a cartoon series. I respect him a lot, but I'm really glad that I got to replace him. Yeah. I mean, the job used to be his, but the power is mine. Yes, anything. No, just happy to sit there and listen. Okay. Right now I live in Paris, France. I grew up in Los Angeles, where I lived to the age of 34. 34 years old, I moved to New York City to do 507 performances of Saturday Night Fever on Broadway. Thank you very much. I played 4 characters every night, and I understudied 3 other principals, so I was responsible for 7 tracks, and I'd come into the theater at night, look on the board, and find out whose sweaty clothes I was wearing. And after that show came down, I was afraid of absolutely nothing, because I did 507 shows in pants so tight you could tell my religion, in front of 2,000 people every night. And I released a couple of records, one in the United States and one in Hungary. The record in Budapest, Hungary sold 33,000 copies. I was very, very, very proud of that effort. I'm still a songwriter. I also am a watercolor painter and teacher. Please feel free to check out my website at davidcoburnart.com. One of the things I love about painting is that as an artist, we don't just have the ability, we have the responsibility to eliminate unnecessary detail and to focus the emphasis on the essence of what moves us. And this is what I try to do as a lifestyle. I try to take my energy and focus it on the stuff that matters most to me, and not dilute the available energy I have on things that don't matter. And painting has taught me that. Songwriting has taught me that. Teaching has taught me that. Condensing a complex subject into something accessible for people that may not know it as well as I do. And I like the transmission part of being a creative person. And I feel really honored to have been given the voice of Captain Planet, because it's an amazing position to hold, and clearly it's had an effect on millions of people over the last 35 years. Not a lot of our work as human beings reaches that many people, and humbly I am grateful. Truly, what an honor. We used to record Captain Planet in a group. All of the actors would show up at the same time. We'd sit around the table and we'd read the script once with coffee and bagels, understand the story, figure out the words. Then we'd go into the studio and we'd read it again twice. And it was a really beautiful way to record, because we were in the room with people like Ed Asner and Tim Curry and Meg Ryan and Jeff Goldblum and Dean Stockwell, and everybody was there working on this common goal. One of the things I love about movie making, animation, voiceover, any kind of creative Hollywood job is that it's a collaborative art form. I can't do my job without a script and a director and an engineer and a bunch of other people. And all those people that live in those studios and work in those buildings and write those scripts have no reason to exist without an actor to read the stuff at the end of the food chain. So we're interdependent. It's a collaborative art form, and one of the things I love most about my job. I could play piano alone at home, but it's much better to come down on a downbeat with a band. I can paint by myself, but I really love doing demos in front of other people, sharing my process or the product of my process with other people. And so Captain Planet was one of the last series that are recorded this way. Today, long before COVID ever isolated us into separate rooms, we record our voices for all of our work all by ourselves in a booth. So I've got a microphone in my face, I've got headphones on my head, I've got a director asking me what to do, and then I go home. And I don't really get to feel the impact that my work is having on the people it's reaching until moments like this, where I sit in front of fans who care. And Captain Planet was different because the goal we were working for was bigger than all of us. The ideology was more important than just this voiceover job, and plus we were all there together, listening to each other and inspired by each other's generosity and creative energy. Tim Curry, a very, very famous, very talented English actor, was there every episode. There were some celebrities like Martin Sheen, whose life didn't really afford him that much flexibility. Martin Sheen recorded his stuff alone. Ed Asner, Hoggish Greenlee, was there every session. He'd usually show up in a sweaty t-shirt with a towel around his neck as he was coming back from the gym. And to share the process of creation with all of these other artists that we all respected so much was an honor, and I think it made the quality of the product better. Definitely was more moving. Questions? Anything? Yes, sir.
If you were to make Captain Planet audience, meet with all the 20 of you seem like a lot of change.
So the week that I spent with Mr. Gore in Nashville, learning how to teach environmentalism, he said something very important to us. He says there's a fine line between educating people about the severity of the problem and creating desperation in humanity. You don't want humanity to lose hope. So you gotta create motivation by talking about the severity of the issue, but you cannot kill people's motivation by leaving them hopeless. That's the biggest challenge today, right? Because we have more science than we did in 1990. We got a lot more data, and it's not just localized to sub-Saharan countries or equatorial countries. It's all over the planet, in countries like France, which is north of Canada. It's gonna be 45 degrees Celsius in Spain next week. It's 105, 107 Fahrenheit, right? The data wasn't the same 20 years ago. So I think the challenge today is to get the message across without frightening people away from the problem. So you can't talk only about the problem, you've got to talk about solutions. Anybody have any ideas about things that we can actually do in our personal life to help the environment? How many of you have changed your old light bulbs to low energy consumption bulbs? Show of hands. How many people drive a hybrid or an electric car? Huh? My daughters turn off the water in my bathroom when I'm brushing my teeth because I don't turn it off fast enough. I turn it off in between brushing. I turn the shower off when I'm soaping myself up and then rinse and turn it off. I don't just sit under the shower for 20 minutes and let the water roll into the ocean. So we talked to these kids. We mentioned the 5-year-old boy, and one of the things I talked about with the kids was the problem seems really big, like almost insurmountable. Imagine a bathtub with 1,000 holes and water's leaking out of the bathtub everywhere. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I only have 10 fingers. I can only plug up 10 holes. But if 1,000 people use one pinky, the problem's solved. And sometimes we don't understand that little gestures on an exponential scale can make a measurable difference. We might feel powerless as individuals, but as a collective, we're unstoppable. Yeah, man.
Covered this earlier, so I apologize if you have. There's a lot of cultural diversity in the show, right? And so, how do you feel that sort of has influenced the impact, the legacy of the show?
I grew up in Southern California. I speak 3 languages: Spanish, English, and French. I speak a little bit of Hungarian. Cultural diversity for me has always been a norm. It's all I've known is that we're all different and we're all the same because we're human beings. In today's political climate, diversity has different implications. I think there's been a little bit of a de-evolution in humanity's ability to address this issue. I said to Tom the other day, my whole life I just grew up thinking I was just a nice, normal guy. And I paid my taxes, I observed the traffic laws, I got good grades on my homework, I'm nice to animals. I thought I was a nice, normal guy. And the older I get, the more I realize I'm an anomaly. There's a lot of selfish people that aren't thinking about the global impact of their behavior. They're just motivated by their own personal needs. So, there's an expression in French, to be the porte-parole. You're the carrier of somebody else's words. I feel an obligation, ideologically, to keep talking about this as long as I have a voice. You know, Captain Planet wouldn't exist without the Planeteers and the entire planet. He says all the time, he is your powers combined and magnified. And I think, to answer your question, we have to remind our kids to work on this together, because it's very easy to feel powerless all by yourself. And you gotta keep it fun. You gotta keep it fun. Paris recently has closed a lot of the roads to open up bike paths. They're trying to take cars out of major cities in the world. Europe is committed to doing this by 2035. In New York City, it costs $25 to cross the George Washington Bridge and the Holland Tunnel. Not because the bridge and the tunnel need that money, but because you're trying to keep people from driving into the city. If you can make humanity's collective needs more important than your own individual needs, I think we have a chance. But we all have to think this way together. So, yeah, the pleasure is mine, but the power is yours.
Woo!
Man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh. What are you drinking? Water? Is that water? Or is it juice? It's water. You are a beautiful young girl. It's very nice to see you. Hello, you guys. I wish somebody would push me around in one of those. That's nice.
I miss those days too.
Yeah, right? They're coming back, brother. One day somebody's gonna push you around with somebody else. I also got to do Captain Pollution's voice. Captain Pollution is Captain Planet's evil twin. That was really fun because he was a bad guy, and bad guys were a lot of fun to play.
Yes, they are.
Captain Planet didn't have a whole lot to say in each episode. The Planeteers had the bulk of the dialogue. I'd come in at the end of Act 1 to talk about the problem, and I'd come in at the end of Act 2 to solve it. Captain Pollution was a great character. I really enjoyed doing his voice. And I modeled him after an evil surfer. There you go. Captain Pollution! I also continue to do, tons of other voice work in tons of other cartoons. Even since I moved to France, I've done a lot of video games, like Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Beyond Human, and a very powerful video game about racism. It's a brilliant metaphor for humanity's ability to accept diversity. It's a game about an android revolution. The androids want to be treated like people. That's all. They don't want to be viewed like slaves or machines, like all of us. I got to work in Beyond Two Souls with Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe. I did voice work in Heavy Rain. I love the video game medium because there's no limit to the kinds of characters I can play. And a lot of these video games are done with a technology called motion capture. Motion capture is the digital captation of a body's movement with points of light on all the points of articulation. And it's really great because on a real TV show or a film, I can only play somebody that looks like me. I could maybe wear some prosthetic makeup and get a haircut and put on a new suit. But I'm still going to be this guy who's 5'9" with his big nose and whatever. In the world of motion capture, I can play a limitless panoply of characters that have nothing to do with my physiognomy or my voice. And I love the creative freedom of it. You're usually in a room with a couple of rectangles marked out on the floor that represents your playing space, within which you're free to do anything. Play anybody. In one game, I played 11 characters. In one scene, I'm an old man getting beaten up by a group of teenagers, and I'm 3 of the teenagers beating up the old man. I played a Thai lady in the next version of Ghost Recon Wildlands. I played a fish vendor at a market. I got to do the voice of an old Thai lady and pretend to sell fish. I got to play soldiers. I got to play people much larger than me. I got to play people much younger than me. And I love the creative freedom that motion capture and video games afford me. I like the creative freedom and anonymity that voiceover affords me. You know, Captain Planet's voice is more effective if you close your eyes, you don't see it coming out of my face, right? Like, that doesn't belong in this guy's body, it's the blue guy's voice. So whenever I do the voice for people, I always ask them to close their eyes, and then you get to see grown men with big muscles and beards blushing like little schoolgirls, and it makes me feel very good. Very good. You're blushing like a little schoolgirl? You're positively radiant, sir. Ah, well, isn't that why we're here? Huh? I think I remember my dad said before he died, he said, David, you haven't lost the ability to play. I don't think we get old because we don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing. Keep the little kid alive. Becomes a really good example for your own children too, how to stay young at heart, how to stay curious, how to look for what I like to call arbitrary positivity. Right? Arbitrary positivity. If it's arbitrary, you got 2 choices. You could be positive or negative. Why pick the dark side? Huh? You're not looking for those droids. These are not the droids you're looking for. These 2 can pass. So I like to include as much arbitrary positivity in my work as I possibly can, to remind people that they have the same ability, responsibility to do the same. I love this word, responsibility. We think about it as an obligation. Oh, it's my responsibility. I gotta go do this because it's my responsibility. Responsibility is the ability to respond. We don't control anything 100% in the world except our word and our action. The weather, not my fault. Traffic, not my fault. The jobs I get or don't get, not my fault. What people think about me or say about me, not my fault. How I respond to it, 100% me. And I like that responsibility. I welcome that because I can create my own emotional reality by making arbitrarily positive choices. And I can talk about it with people like you and maybe create more arbitrary positivity in the world in which we all live. You throw a rock in a lake, it makes ripples. And then those ripples will keep going until they hit something else and bounce back. Everything we do has implications on an energetic level. So I accept that responsibility. I welcome it. I take it as almost as a spiritual charge. Like that's why I was put on this planet. To try to leave something better behind me than what I came in with. I hope that this has been interesting. I hope that you have been inspired. And I hope that you feel the responsibility to go out and spread some of this stuff to people in your own lives. Because I can't do this alone. I am your powers, combined and magnified. Without the Planeteers, Captain Planet is nothing. Without us, planet Earth, she's gonna be fine. Okay? She did just fine without us for literally millions of years. Wake up. Let's remember how lucky we are to be able to fill our lungs every 3 seconds without thinking about it. Or to flip on a light because it's dark outside. Remember how grateful you could be if you decided. The power really is yours. Thank you so much for showing up, you guys. My name is David Coburn. I'll be here all afternoon. I'll be here tomorrow.
No problem.
The pleasure's mine, but the power is yours.